Hi everyone, Teddy here.
And I'm Courtney, and today we're going to be taking a look at more entry-level options to some expensive fragrances. So by no means are these exact copies. They, more so have similar approaches or a specific genre that's quite similar. And this could serve you maybe one of two ways. You have the cheaper one already, and you're ready to maybe make that next jump. You want to see, hey, I really like this fragrance, but I want it in a, more quality-driven, long-lasting type of scent. Maybe you're in love with the scent, you want a nicer one. Or maybe you aren't sure if you even like a genre of fragrance yet. Maybe you aren't sure if you like a fougere and you want to try out a cheaper one before you splurge on that expensive bottle. So kind of looking at it two ways.
And I'm a big proponent of, if you have your eyes set on one fragrance, don't go for a shortcut, go for the real thing. But I do think this is a good idea to just look at for those that might just be navigating this world for the first time. So we have 6 different fragrances here. We're going to spend most of our time talking about the alternative rather than the real thing. So just kind of keep that all in mind. Now, one other thing I'll mention at the beginning of this video, if you do want to have an opportunity to win up to $1,000 shopping spree on luxury fragrances, niche fragrances, I'd recommend filling out the form down below. What we're going to be doing on our site is you go and fill out that form, and then after you fill out the basic information, so how we can contact you if you do win, we then would ask that you grab some links and you say basically what fragrances would you pick out of the ones on our site, and the price can't be over $1,000. Then we're going to announce the winner. Make sure you're subscribed here on YouTube as well as following us on Instagram. We'll have the announcement come out in the coming weeks or maybe month or so. I don't really know when we're going to announce it, so make sure you're subscribed as well as following us on Instagram. But good luck to all that enter, and thanks for all the support so far.
So our first fragrance, the expensive option here, is Tom Ford Lavender Extreme. And if you're familiar with Tom Ford, then you know that this one we're going to talk about is actually one of his favorites that he has worn
Supposedly,
yes.
That's at least what the rumor is, that he absolutely loves this fragrance.
Word on the street. So that is Caron pour un homme de Caron. It has lavender, vanilla, musk, rosemary, clary sage, bergamot, lemon, and coriander. It's more aromatic, less sweet. Very strong resemblance in the opening specifically.
Yes, and just so everybody knows, this came much before. This came out in the 1930s, I believe, and in terms of classic 20th century perfumery, I think this is honestly up there. Amazing house, amazing brand, and then also in terms of this fragrance, I think a defining fragrance for its category, and I just love it. It kind of has a sleepy kind of lavender to it, vanilla, creamy, but not overwhelming in any degree. This fragrance, to me, still, even to this day, I think hasn't aged much. And to be honest, I probably would recommend maybe starting with this and maybe even staying with this. This is a wonderful fragrance. So for our next fragrance here, we have Parfum de Marly Galloway, and big fan of that fragrance, love its zesty composition, but if you want something that's similar, this is kind of getting to that idea that you mentioned, it's not really a direct copy, but more of something similar if you want to be able to take that next step, I would look at something like Lalique White. I get some similarity there, mostly just based on what it's going for with some of the notes. I think the main thing is just going to be the combination of some brightness, but mixing with pepper. Now, Lalique White, this is a wonderful fragrance as well. I think for myself, like when I tried this, I think we sampled this out in a video earlier this year, and I was like, okay, this is pretty solid. And Lalique usually doesn't disappoint. For their price category, I think they do a wonderful job. Notes here, you have lemon leaf, white pepper, bergamot, tamarind, cedar, nutmeg, cardamom, and musk. You look at those notes, you'll smell this fragrance, pretty obvious what it's going for. You have the brightness with some of the citrus elements, and then you're getting some spices. So this is a fragrance that I would really describe as zesty. It's woody and it's dried down. It does have some musk here that is not overwhelming. It doesn't have like this damp kind of soggy effect like some other fragrances out there might, but really well constructed, and I think a great stepping stone if you want to eventually get into something like Parfum de Marly Galloway and still do it with, I think, some elevation as well for the price category.
Next up is one from Creed. You knew it was going to be on this list. Green Irish Tweed. And I'll just be the first to say it. I love this one. I adore it. I love when Teddy wears it. I would recommend probably just going for the big one here, just because I do think it's almost incomparable. I think the one we chose, Davidoff Cool Water, a similar vibe and idea more so, but not the same punch behind it, right? That's something that you're kind of missing with some of these. This one came out 3 years after Green Irish Tweed in 1988. Main difference here is that this one takes more of the aquatic route with the seawater.
Marine notes, a lot of that going on, kind of a little more salty. They both have some saltiness to it because you have ambergris and Green Irish Tweed, but This one is more about kind of that marine type of idea, and you get more of that. And also, I think the mint is also pretty prominent here, so you get more of this kind of zesty type of effect with it.
Refreshing, minty, fresh, Davidoff Cool Water.
So this one's a little bit more of a stretch, but there are some, I don't mean to be laughing, but there are some crossover between these. Now, you have Bond No. 9's New Harlem. And for this, as an entry-level option, you have Michael Jordan Legend. Now, I'm more of a LeBron guy, being from Cleveland, Ohio, but hey, we're talking about Michael Jordan fragrances here. So this is Michael Jordan Legend. Now, this fragrance is this warm, kind of creamy type of fragrance, more of that kind of amber, sweet fragrance. So coffee, amber, anise, lavender, leather, patchouli, musk, and cedar for this one in terms of a note breakdown. This fragrance is like $15. Now, is it like Bond No. 9? Completely. No. But does it share some characteristic in what it's going for? Yeah, I think so. And if you wanted to kind of get a taste of what that is like on an extreme budget, well, here you go. This is an eau de cologne concentration, so performance, maybe not the best for a fragrance of this type of composition, and we're talking about these type of notes. But if you want this like warm idea, something that kind of falls in a similar lane, and also is not going to break the bank, I think you can absolutely look at this one. I would say, despite the bottle looking absolutely as...
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, it's honestly kind of a joke how bad it is, but just try the fragrance.
Just spray it with your eyes closed.
Yes. It is going to maybe be a little sweet for some, so you're going to get more of this synthetic type of approach to it. But again, when trying to deal with this kind of amber type of fragrance, there's not many, say, in this price range that even try to encroach on that territory.
Next up, we have Parfum de Marly Percival. And if you've been around here for a little while now, you know that I am obsessed with this one. And that is because it reminds me of its little brother, Abercrombie Fierce. This is like the guy wore it when he was 16 in high school, and then he grew up and was like, you know what? I think it's time to retire my Fierce bottle with the 8-pack abs printed on the bottle and get myself something a little bit more elevated. The elevated big brother of Abercrombie Fierce, I think, is Parfum de Marly Percival, and I think that's a great way to describe it. Notes for this one, you get musk, fir, lemon, rosemary, vetiver, oak moss, rosewood, sandalwood, orange, and sea notes.
This fragrance is, now that I smell it, it has pretty solid performance. I don't think this has aged poorly at all.
No.
There's been many things in the early 2000s that have aged rather terribly, but this is not one of those things. This came out in 2002, very much a part of like my adolescence. I remember having this in like middle school and just wearing it like crazy. I remember I had a full bottle of that in my backpack.
Oh, I'm sure.
So, and people loved it then, and I think people still like it now. So it's a timeless fragrance. Unlike some of these, I do think this is more of this timeless category. It's, I think, iconic. I would classify it as that for a whole period. I love the mid-2000s and early 2000s because that's kind of a part of my childhood and upbringing. So, I mean, it's just something I can look back to very fondly. So, something I'd recommend for those that do want to get a taste of Percival. And, I mean, probably doesn't even need to be mentioned because I think so many people are familiar with this one.
Yep, you can leave your low-rise jeans and frosted tips in the past, but this one is coming with me.
Puka shell necklace, here it's coming. So last up here, so we have Baccarat Rouge 540. And for the alternative, we have Ariana Cloud. I feel very strange grabbing for this bottle here, but you know what? It does smell somewhat similar to it. Now, I don't think it smells as similar as some people say. I do get some of the characteristics. On the opening, I mean, it's not so noticeable for me. And also as it dries down, I can also kind of detect the difference. But the main thing that I will say here is this is a much sweeter, a much more powdery type of approach, I would say. But the powdery approach is not to the same degree that BR540 is going for. This is very much about like this kind of vanilla creaminess. I think they have like whipped cream type of idea. You also have like a coconut type of kind of element to what this one is going for. But very sweet, more youthful, and of course, way more approachable in terms of price point. This is very much a feminine fragrance.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have, on the other side, BR540, which I would say is a unisex fragrance. So I think that's also, I could never, ever wear this, but I could wear BR540 whenever I want it. I think it smells great on myself. I actually really like it.
Yes, I like it on you as well.
So that's another thing that, I think allows that idea to kind of make sense too, because this one, much more gourmand in my mind.
Yeah, I will say it's interesting because when you have both of them in front of you, you can tell the difference clear as day. You can, I mean, it's so obvious, especially if you're familiar with BR540, if you know the difference. But my hairstylist was actually wearing this. I walked in to get my hair done, and I'm like, "Are you wearing Ariana Grande Cloud?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, it actually really smells kind of like BR540 when you're in a like space.
Yes.
Right? It fills the space to smell a little bit more
Good point.
like BR540, but on the actual skin or on a fragrance strip, I think is when you can really tell the difference.
Yes. But the cool thing about this one is, what I'll say is, I think there's a lot of women that maybe want to get into BR540, but they're not sure, like, okay, that's expensive for a full bottle. Maybe I try this first.
Yes.
I think this is a nice stepping stone into that. So that's why I think it makes sense to include it on a list here today.
All right, guys, that is all we have for this one. If you liked it or found it helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button to be in the loop for when we release new content. Let us know down in the comments if you have a fragrance that was a stepping stone for you, if it was maybe any of the ones we mentioned, any of the ones we didn't mention. We'd love to hear what your personal experience was down in the comments.
Also, if you want to enter our giveaway, definitely fill out the form down below. $1,000 shopping spree. You can get some amazing fragrances. Not talking about these attainable ones. We're talking about some real deal stuff that I think are kind of fragrance goals, I would say.
Yeah, go and enter. I wish I could win.
Oh, you win enough. Anyway, guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and we'll see you all next time.